This is Akashvani. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on Union Cabinet decisions. The participants are Pallav Bagla, Senior Science Journalist, and Om Veshupadhyay, Anchor.
Today, the Union Cabinet, chaired by Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, has apprised multiple memorandum of understanding related to the diverse sectors like earth sciences, research and development, and satellite subsystems. Apart from these MOUs, the Union Cabinet has also approved the proposal to declare Ayodhya Airport as an international airport and name it Maharishi Valmiki International Airport, Ayodhya Dham. Listeners, this approval elevates Ayodhya Airport to international status, which is paramount for realizing Ayodhya's economic potential and significance as a global pilgrimage site. And today, to discuss more on the MOUs related to earth sciences and research and development, we are joined by senior science journalist Mr. Pallav Bagla. So, Mr. Bagla, to begin the discussion, I would like to discuss more on the Prithvi Vigyan scheme and its significance to the context of environmental research and earth sciences. Please share an overview about this with our listeners.
See, Prithvi is a very large umbrella in which many different kind of research programs will happen in India. It will cost about 5,000 crores. That is the cabinet approval and decision. We live on Earth. 70% of the earth is water. It is said we know more about the moon and we have mapped the moon a lot more than even the earth just now. So a thrust on trying to understand more about earth is a very good decision, and being a population of 1.4 billion plus people, looking at how to be sustainable in our own country is one of the objectives. But the whole Prithvi initiative will look at all the elements of Earth. So atmosphere, solid Earth, oceans, also look at the two poles, Arctic and Antarctic, and also look at the Himalayan ice region. So there are many aspects where we still lack a lot of understanding. And for our country, it is very important that we focus on it and make sure that we use the resources sustainably. And that is one element of all the Prithvi initiative which the government is launching. This is under the aegis of the Ministry of Earth Sciences. And very recently, India sent an expedition to understand the Arctic region. This is the first long-term overwinter expedition which has been sent by India. And we have been exploring Antarctic for a very long time, for more than several decades. And understanding the Indian Ocean region is very critical. Many may not realize that the only country in the world to have an ocean named after it is India, with the Indian Ocean. And we still don't fully comprehend the dynamics of the ocean atmosphere interaction. And the whole monsoon phenomenon is linked with it, and monsoons are the harbinger of life for India. If we don't get good monsoon rain, it becomes troublesome. So trying to understand the complexities of solid earth, atmosphere, oceans, coupled with the ices on Arctic, Antarctic and Himalayan region is all part of this Prithvi initiative. And it is a very welcome initiative and a very timely initiative by India. Very soon, India will launch a satellite called the NISAR satellite, or the NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Satellite, which is a joint collaboration between NASA and ISRO. That particular satellite will study Earth deformation, climate change and capture of carbon by different plants and animals. And the key part of that particular satellite is that it's the single most expensive Earth imaging satellite in the civilian domain to be ever made, costing about $1.5 billion. So that will also, whatever data comes from that, would definitely feed into the Prithvi initiative by the Ministry of Earth Sciences, and putting research at the forefront to take care of Mother Earth is such a welcome initiative, because we have in our DNA Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So one earth, one family is part of our DNA and our understanding. So this will take forward that deep linkage.
Absolutely, and as you very rightly said there, that there is still a lot more to learn and understand about our Mother Earth. And if we specifically talk about the sub-scheme under the Prithvi Vigyan scheme, like atmosphere and climate research, modeling, observing systems and services across for atmospheric and climate processes, Ocean Services Modeling Application, Resources and Technology, OSMART for ocean processes, and Polar Science and Cryosphere Research, PACER, for the polar region. So now, Mr. Bagla, how these sub-schemes aim to enhance our understanding of these particular sectors about which you were talking earlier also.
See, each of these is targeting an area which is little understood. And the better understanding we have, the better we will be able to live with it sustainably. So if you have to look at the Himalayan Cryosphere, which is the glacier region and the cold region of the Himalayas, it is very important for the development of the country because we want to secure our border while having to make roads and development projects which are sustainable and do not do harm to the environment. And all of that, somewhere or the other, gets linked to research and understanding. We still don't understand so many things of the Himalayas and Himalayan geology. It is a vast area and we have explored so little. To put all of that to better understanding and deploy it for greater good and sustainable development is a very laudable goal. But all depends on how much is implemented on the ground and how much research gets directly used by the agencies which need to use it for development work.
Absolutely. And if we go by stats, there has been a significant rise in the frequency of earthquakes. So keeping the dangers and economic losses in mind, how significantly does the Seismology and Geosciences SAGE sub-scheme under the Prithvi Vigyan scheme can monitor the seismic activities, and can it play a role in advancing geosciences in India as well?
See, one thing we need to understand, till now there is no science of forecasting earthquakes. But that does not mean that we should not research more on which are the tectonic zones from where earthquakes can arise. So all of that lead on to doing some activity which can give us an early warning on earthquakes. That would be very useful. But that has defied not just Indian scientists, it has defied global scientists. Nobody can forecast an earthquake. But being in a region which is so prone to earthquakes, the Himalayan region, the northeastern region, the Andaman Nicobar belt, it's all highly tectonic. So somewhere or the other, we face a lot of risk because of earthquakes. So having large monitoring network and also having infrastructure which is resilient to earthquakes is the key to saving lives.
And now moving on to the next MOU, which was signed between ISRO and MRIC for the joint development of a small satellite. So Mr. Bagla, could you elaborate on how the collaboration with Indian industries in building the satellite subsystem would be significant, and partnership, how it will strengthen these sectors?
Space is a strategic sector, and in that to have MOU with Mauritius is very good. Mauritius has been an old friend of India. India has an Earth station in Mauritius for a long time. Every time we launch our rocket, the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle or the Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle, the Earth station at Mauritius is used. So this is now taking the understanding between India and Mauritius to the next level, which is to take into space. When you make a joint satellite together with experts in Mauritius and India, it will certainly help both countries. And this particular satellite is a small satellite and it's going to cost about 20 crore rupees, and the money is going to be given by India. But there is no transfer of money. But it is only essentially meaning that their experts will probably build whatever system they have to build there, and our experts will build. And it also says that the Indian industry can help, which means that our startups can get a leg up. The big thrust, if you ask me, in having a satellite building with a neighboring country also is a strategic initiative. It makes the neighboring countries rely on technology which is Indian. They don't need to go to, because China always trying to increase its footprint. So this is some way in trying to contain the footprint of China in the space domain. But end of the day, anybody who makes a satellite or works on a rocket with Indian scientists will understand the deep capability India has. And at some point, if they want more satellites or want larger satellites, then once they have been exposed to a country's capability, and India has deep capability both for making rockets, making satellites and downstream applications, there would be an opportunity for ISRO, Indian industry and startups to maybe make commercial gain out of it. And this should not be looked at only as India-Mauritius initiative. India also in the past has had the South Asia satellite, which Prime Minister Narendra Modi had initiated. and the big beneficiaries were neighboring countries and especially Bhutan. And same way, now India has been talking after the G20 summit to have a G20 satellite. So countries are going to be working together, and when you work in the strategic sector like space, then you develop the confidence among each other that this is mostly shared with friends. And when the footprint of friendship goes to space, it is always more opportune way of strengthening the bonds between countries.
Absolutely. And if you talk about the next MOU between India and the United States for International Development, USAID, that aims to support Indian Railways in achieving mission net zero carbon emission by 2030. So whatever the measures that are there in the MOU, how much they will be available to make the whole process sustainable and low carbon railway development in India?
See, one needs to know that the Indian railway network is very vast. It's one of the largest networks of the world. Today, there is huge reliance on electric locomotives and diesel locomotives. So, reducing dependence and making them low carbon or carbon free is a laudable goal. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has already announced that India will be net zero by 2070. But this initiative between USA and Indian Railways gives a suggestion that the Indian Railways will be net zero by 2030. So, it is a very ambitious target, but it could be achieved easily for the simple reason because this is a captive area and you know exactly where you can target to make sure that your diesel locomotives convert to electric or they convert to biodiesel or you use electricity which is generated through sustainable means. And India's railway network is only expanding. The freight traffic is increasing. Passenger traffic is increasing. We already had Shatabdi trains which were fast. Now we have even faster trains in Vande Bharat and we will soon have bullet train. And all of them, if they can be net zero, it will reduce the carbon footprint for India in a very big way and certainly help fight climate change. And it also be beneficial to the passengers. If you use sustainable sources of green energy, then the railway ticket could also come down. So it would benefit you and me both.
Absolutely, sir. And as we enter the concluding stage of our program and we talk about the MOU between India and Guyana, which covers the entire hydrocarbon sector value chain. So for the benefit of our listeners, can you explain what are the specific strategies outlined for enhancing cooperation in the exploration and production sector and how these measures aim to benefit both the nations, India and Guyana?
For a very long time to come, India would be highly dependent on coal, gas and petroleum for its energy needs. And we need to diversify the portfolio from where we can source our petroleum products. And Guyana is one place where recently a large reservoir of oil and gas has been discovered. So this MOU, which highlights that India would participate not just in exploring, but also tapping and also hopefully in buying oil and gas from Guyana, it would certainly be useful for India to diversify its portfolio and reduce its reliance on the traditional sources from where we are getting our oil and gas. So again, this is a well-poised initiative which will benefit India in increasing the bouquet of countries from where we can import oil. And that is very much required when you need to have less fragile logistic systems, less fragile systems from where you can import. We have seen a lot of stress can happen at different times for different reasons. Various different international conflicts and different wars can affect the supply of oil and gas. So this is one more step by India and it certainly helps in increasing the portfolio of import of oil for India. And it will certainly be beneficial for Guyana as well because we have the technology having developed both our oil and gas fields.
On that note, with your insightful inputs, we conclude the program. Thank you so much, Mr. Bagla, for joining us today on Akashvani.
Thank you very much.
You were listening to a discussion on Union Cabinet decisions. The participants were Pallav Bagla, Senior Science Journalist, and Om Veshupadhyay, Anchor. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. You may share your feedback about this program through email at airnsdtalks@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 92890 94044.